pork tenderloin. That is the next thing on the agenda. A little package of pork tenderloin here. So I love pork tenderloin. Some people are not partial to the pig. I don't understand it because I love the other white meat. But I'm going to show you a quick and easy marinade for pork tenderloin, and you can let it go for as little as an hour up to a whole day. It's very flexible and gives it a little extra flavor, and then it's just simply taking out of the marinade, laying it on a sheet tray and roasting it at a pretty hot temperature. It'll give it kind of a nice golden crust. And depending on the weight of your pork tenderloin will dictate how long you cook it, but I'll talk about that when I get to the part of getting ready to throw it into the oven. But I'm excited to tell you about this one because I think it is a way to make things seem kind of fancy and elevated, but it's really simple and not something that people typically eat all the time. So if you've never tried having pork tenderloin, I highly suggest it. I do buy mine at Costco. Best prices, hands down. This was $2.49 a pound. Trader Joe's has theirs for $5.99 a pound. So it's quite a price difference. And this one pack comes with this attached with another package, which I already used. And there's 2 tenderloins in here. So it's enough to feed probably 6 to me, like for our portions, probably 6 to 8 people. But if you were a real hungry eater, you could maybe do, less than that. But anyways, it's a great meal. It'll give you some leftovers and it's pretty quick and easy. So here we go. Okay, I'm about ready to marinate. So Ziploc bag, super simple. And this is like so easy. You're basically just dumping things in to the bag. I don't normally measure, I just pour it right in the bag and I just estimate, but this is basically equal parts balsamic vinegar, olive oil. Probably would have done a little bit more in the olive oil, but that's how it measured out. So that, I took 2 cloves of garlic and just rough chopped them. That'll go in here. This is fresh thyme, but you could use dried if that's all you have. I just happen to have some. Rosemary from my yard up here in the Northwest. It grows really well. And I'll basically just pull straight down and then there it is. Throw that in there. Got my pork tenderloins. This is what they look like. They're kind of icky looking, but they taste amazing. Pop those. There's 2, like I said, in that package from Costco. The ones, if the package looks really skinny, that's like in a plastic sleeve, like at a regular grocery store, it probably is just a single tenderloin. So maybe you would want to buy 2, but if you get them at Costco, they're 2 to the single pack. Important to know. And then I'll hit this with a little bit of salt and a few cranks of pepper, and that's it. And then this will hang out for at least an hour. However, you could do, I've done it the night before. I've wanted to cook it, I have put it together in the evening and then had it ready to go for the night. In the summertime, you could grill this. You can also do Asian-based flavors and do teriyaki and soy and make flavors that are more like that, and then just kind of massage it around. And this will just pop into the fridge, and I'll see you in, for me, about an hour when I throw it into the oven. And then going with this meal is just going to be a simple side of roasted veggies, which will roast at the same temperature. I do my pork at 425. If you Google search roasting pork tenderloin, I will tell you, I've seen everything from 350 to 375 to 400 to 425. You just have to adjust based on the length of time for how long you roast it, based on the weight of your meat. Talk about that right before I pop it in the oven. And then so that's simple roasted vegetables. We have some leftover mashed potatoes and dinner's ready. So it's a pretty simple meal. I'm really excited about this one. Hope you enjoy. Okay, I took my pork tenderloin, pulled it out of the Ziploc, laid it on my sheet tray. I put parchment down, not necessary, but I just think it helps with easy cleanup. I did salt and pepper on one side. I'm gonna flip it over, make sure I get both sides seasoned. That's super important. Even though in my marinade I had a little bit of salt, this is only really seasoning that outer layer of the meat, so you don't need to be too, concerned. I think it's important in pepper as well, because I'm pepper. I can talk. There's some herbs that are stuck to this meat, which is totally fine. I don't want all of that on there. So that's ready to go. And then my veggie, just a little side note, Brussels sprouts. Our family really likes those, so all I do is I take the whole Brussels sprout, I cut off the end, and then I have these 2 halves, like this. I put them all in a bowl, toss them well with oil of choice. I happen to use olive oil, or you can use avocado oil or whatever. The other thing, I make sure I flip all of them. Here, come in here, zoom on this. I flip all of them down. So then the flat half side is flat on your sheet tray. Oh, there's one more. That way, that's what's kind of getting browned as these roast. This is going to go into an oven at 425. I will check my pork tenderloin at 20 minutes. It is an important meat, much like chicken. You can't undercook this like you could steak. That could lead to bad things. Trichinella, something. I did a report on it. My first report in culinary school actually was about food poisoning you can get from not fully cooking your pork products. So make sure you cook it well. I would highly suggest investing in a little instant read thermometer. They're not super pricey, and they have them at TJ Maxx and places like that. So you want to roast this to be an internal temperature of about 145 degrees. That's what they technically recommend with the Food and Drug Administration these days. But you can go a little under. There's something called holdover cooking, where when you bring the meat out, it'll keep kind of cooking through. So if I register mine and it's like 140, 142, I'll pull it out and just let it rest, because you want that to happen anyways. You don't want to pull your meat right out of the oven and just cut right into it. All the juices need a chance to simmer down so they don't just rush out of the meat and then you have a dry meat product. You want it to be more juicy. Let it rest when you bring it out of the oven. So these will go in the oven at the same time, 425. It's so easy. And then I'll microwave our leftover mashed potatoes. But if you were doing low carb, obviously we don't do that around here. You could do just the meat and veggies, or meat and two veggies, or meat and veggies in a salad, whatever. But this is what's dinner. So I will give you a little viewing when I get this bad boy out of the oven, all roasted and toasted and ready to go. I have removed my pork tenderloins. They've been resting underneath this little foil tent. Look at how gorgeous they are. Aren't they pretty? And I put my thermometer in just to double check. I did it earlier and it was definitely ready. It's probably risen up, but just stick it in at an angle at like a thick part, 137, 140. It's probably even gone over carryover cooking, but yeah, 151. So we're definitely there. Hopefully not too much there. So these, clank. These rest for a little bit so that the juices kind of redistribute within the meat, and then they're ready to carve. My favorite way to do it, instead of just like, why isn't it happening? I use my tongs, hold on to the meat here, and I like to cut at an angle, partly because it looks pretty. I can just do some thin slices. I'll just cut off a few. You can see that yummy roasted garlic on there. And sometimes you will see some pink in the middle of the pork, but if you've done your meat thermometer, you know you're good. So build my plate. This will probably be hot. Hold on a sec. So I just reheated some leftover mashed potatoes we had. Put a few of those down in the middle. Tucker's excited. Dig a few medallions of the pork, lay those on there. And then the Brussels, come look how gorgeous these guys are. All I did was, you saw what they were in the pan? 20 minutes later, they looked like this. Pretty awesome. And they're super good. If you're not a Brussels sprout person, or you don't think you are, give them a try. My favorite part are these parts, the little tiny edges that come off. They're crispy. You couldn't hear the crunch, but they're like Brussels chips. So my pork, little potato, look how pretty that is. And you could, sorry, I'm not supposed to walk toward the camera. You could do a little sauce, but the pork is super juicy. I'm not gonna really get to cut it because I don't have a knife. That marinade, you taste the garlic. Balsamic vinegar, the thyme, little rosemary, it's super juicy. I know it's the other white meat, but you guys, it's so good. Little potato, little Brussels. Bet you wish you were here for dinner. I'm excited, I'm here for dinner. It's gonna be so good. Give pork tenderloin a try. And then again, variety of marinades you can do. This was just the one that I threw together. I have a lot of choices. Someone's at the door, I gotta go.